are really excited to kick off the first of our quarterly webinars featuring our partners and the work they do. But before we get started, just some housekeeping. You've heard that we are recording. We will share that with you when the session is over. If there's something specific that you'd like to ask during the session, feel free to put it in chat. We do have people monitoring for questions. If it's time sensitive, we'll hit it right then. Otherwise, we will have a Q&A at the end. So feel free to list any of your questions there. If you'd like to ask your own question when the time comes, you will definitely have the opportunity to do that. If you would rather me ask on your behalf, that's fine too. So just if you do list a question, just let us know if you want to ask it for yourself. Our contact information will be shared at the end. We encourage you, reach out to us with any questions you have at any time, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. So before we meet our guests, I wanted to share with you a little bit about what drove us to start this quarterly webinar. So at CareerScope, we are committed to our partners. We want them to achieve their mission and positively impact the people that they serve. But we're also committed to those individuals who are in transition as well. We want to inspire them to find new opportunities, new options for careers as they move along their path. So because of that, we are, again, committed to listening to all of our partners and learning from them about what's working for them, what's not working for them, so that we can continue to develop solutions that are impactful for both our partners and the people that they serve. So that's what's driving us to start this today. So we are looking forward to hearing from our panelists as well as all of you. So today we're going to highlight two of our Goodwill partners and talk about how they are helping organizations change and think about who they hire and how they hire them. So today we have with us Carol Newberry, who's the Adult Services Coordinator at Goodwill Southern New England, and Antonio Quiros, who is a Good Partner Coach and the Mission Services Program Administrator for Goodwill of Minnesota, Florida. Goodwill is developing a talent pipeline that we think will get organizations to rethink how they identify and assess their talent, and also expand the way they recruit for talent. So I guess to get started, I'd like to ask Carol and Antonia to just introduce themselves and tell us briefly about their programs and who they serve.
I can start.
Okay.
My name is Antonia. I've been with Goodwill for 8 years. I started with the Job Connection program. We help people in the community find competitive employment. I also work with the Good Partner Coach program, which is a program we have that works with our team members that work in our operations in our stores. So we help our team members get into different education. We help with workforce development and soft skills attainment. We also help them, with setting goals and obtaining resources in the community they may need.
And my name is Carol Newberry. I am the Adult Services Coordinator here at Goodwill of Southern New England. We work with a wide range of people with various barriers to employment and offer a variety of services, both in-house and out in the community, working with employers to help people become successful and get competitively employed. I've been with Goodwill for 22 years, I realized. And I will be a bit biased, but I think Goodwills are a great partner for many people out in the community to find a great pipeline of talent that I think has not been used quite as extensively as it could be.
So if either of you or if both of you could tell us a little bit about how you use assessments with your clients or your participants, as well as not just CareerScope, but any assessments that you use, and how you get them prepared to enter the workforce or return to the workforce. You want to go first, Carol?
Sure. Here at Goodwill of Southern New England, we start people out pretty much with a vocational assessment. And CareerScope happens to be one of the tools that we use to help a person do some career exploration, to look at aptitudes and interests and how they translate into the world of work. Some of the other things that we use are actual real work experiences along with work samples that we have developed in-house that correlate to jobs that are available in the community. We also work with some other standardized vocational assessment tools, such as the Valpar system, for example, and some other interest inventory. So as we put those together, it helps us to be able to meet people where they're at, and then determine where their skills, abilities, and interests are, and then try to identify jobs that would be that good job person match. After that, we also help people do what we have community work experiences where people are able to go out into a job for up to 40 hours. They're on the Goodwill payroll and on our workers' comp. So it's really a win-win for a lot of the employers because they really get a chance to see if that person is a good fit for their organization, as well as the individual getting a sense of how they feel about fitting into that particular job. So that's one of the ways that we use the assessment process.
Okay, Antonia, how about you guys?
I would say we use it similarly. We use it with job seekers who aren't sure what they want to do, people who are new to the job market. And we get a lot of people who, because we're Florida, we have a lot of people moving to Florida, leaving whatever industry they were in at North. They get down here and whatever they used to do is not an option anymore because that industry doesn't exist here or things have changed. A lot of times they may not have the skills needed to do the jobs that are around here. So we use CareerScope to kind of see what are some transferable skills, and maybe now it's time to find a job you really like. So what do you like, and what are you good at? And so that CareerScope helps us do that. We also use it with our team members because we have a process that they can use for like they pre-nom for education. So if we have a team member who is interested in getting a bachelor's degree, we'll give them the CareerScope to see, okay, you know, what do you want to get into? Is this something that's feasible for you? So we use it for education with our team members to kind of help them do some career exploration and planning.
So is that offered to any of your team members, or is that part of the screening process when they come in, or it's just?
So any team member can put a pre-nomination in for education. So we would meet with them and say, okay, well, what are your educational goals? How does that fit with Goodwill? Is this something that is going to be something you're going to go for yourself, or is this something Goodwill? We have partnerships with educational, different educational programs. So we put people through school, and before we do that, we usually give them the CareerScope just to see, you know, is what they want to do in line with what their skills and abilities are and what their interests are.
That's really interesting. I didn't realize that. Okay, so do you have different programs that are using CareerScope differently, or how do your programs specifically put people in these, either the job trials or the work experiences? Is it based on the results of all the assessments, or do you try something first and then assess after the fact?
I can start with that. Many people come to us with an idea of what they would like to do. So we're able to take a combination of their interest, skills, and abilities and matching them up with the job site. For many people, however, because we do work with students that are in school in the transitional phase of things, and they're not really sure. So it gives them an opportunity to explore some areas that they might think about going into and looking into them a little bit more to figure out if that matches what they do. And so it's a great learning tool to be able to match the people up with their skills for what's available in the community as well.
Okay. How about you, Antonia?
Yeah, I think if you just go on ONET or you go on the Occupational Outlook Handbook, it's overwhelming, right? So when you're younger and people say, what do you want to do when you grow up? I don't think a lot of people have a lot of choices that they can think of. You know, they can think of 5 or 6 major occupations, and you know, that's it. So I think this really helps because, like I said, if you just look at the Occupational Outlook handbook and you see all the jobs, it's overwhelming. Yeah, I don't, you know, there's so many things I don't know what I'd be good at, and this sort of helps them narrow it down. You know, it helps them filter their search. So now we know, based on these job groups, this is what you're good at, and this is what you like, and where they intersect is the sweet spot. And so let's look in these job groups, and then we can research, okay, what is this person's day-to-day life like? Is this, and then, you know, you can toggle down and see, okay, is this a job that's hiring in Florida? You know, what's the wage and what's the growth rate? And, you know, then you can do the research. But if you just start the research with no information about yourself, and I think a lot of, whether it's a student or someone returning to work, I don't think a lot of people take the time to know themselves and think about what they like and what they want to do. Sometimes we just do what came along, and we never really thought about what we like to do and what we're good at. So this is like a good time for people to slow down and kind of really evaluate what it is they want to do. That way, when they do their career research, you know, it's not so overwhelming.
So from the employer side, are there employers that you work with all the time that know that you're doing these assessments, and so your clients that you place with them have good fit and stay there, and so they come to you when they know they need people to fill a certain type of job? Like, do you have that kind of back and forth relationship with the employers, or does it depend on the client or the participant?
We do have a nice relationship with many employers. Rhode Island is a small state, so unfortunately, sometimes when a person or a program has not had such great success, word travels fast. But what we've been able to do is to offer the supports not only to the individual, but also to the employer for looking at what they need and helping them to understand that there are social service agencies out there and organizations that do understand what an employer is needing and some of the parameters that they're dealing with as well. And I think that has been an excellent place to start of building trust with employers and knowing that Goodwill has a pipeline of talent that is eager to work, wanting to work, showing up every day when they do get a job. They might need a little bit of help getting the job in terms of passing along the hiring process, but Goodwill is there to help support the individual and the employer through that process as well. I think another important piece to that too is sometimes, you know, despite the best laid plans, it doesn't work out. And what I think employers have come to realize is that Goodwill is also there to help out when things get a little tough. And they can call in a job coach, or they can call in an individual that's going to offer support on the job. Sometimes it's offering support to the employer to be able to let that person go if it's not a good job person match. And that's a little bit different too, because sometimes people will say, well, I feel bad, I don't want to let them go. But sometimes it's in the best interest of both parties to be able to cut ties and say, let's learn from this experience. And maybe there's somebody else that's a better fit that will work out, you know, to the employer's benefit and the individual's benefit. So it is that balancing act.
So it sounds like if you develop that trust relationship, then they know that if it's not going to work out, there's some other way to support this individual, and you may have someone else that could also fill that position.
Yes.
Okay. Are employers doing anything differently now, or are you doing anything differently now? Let's go this way. Are you doing anything differently now to try to get employers to work with Goodwill, to let them know what a great partner you are? You know, in case there's new employers out there that you're not working with yet, is there a new way to attract that or to get the word out?
I don't know, Antonia, if you want to take the lead on this one.
Well, I think the labor market is hard for all employers right now. And we've been just contacted by a lot of people more recently, just because it is really getting hard to find the talent they're looking for. You know, we talked about the demographic drought and how just people are not staying in the job market like they used to. People are leaving the job market. There's a lot of people gigging, the gig economy, and, you know, they're working for themselves. So it is harder for employers to attract talent. It's becoming a lot more competitive. I see them changing their, you know, they're loosening their the things that would qualify or disqualify people for employment. So that's, I would say, the biggest change that I see is that employers are changing, you know, working with people with backgrounds, working with people that, you know, may be under influences of different things. You know, it's starting to change a little bit. Also, I see a lot of employers will contact us, like if they're laying people off, and they'll have us come in and do classes about how to look for jobs now. And a lot of them do ask for a CareerScope because, you know, whatever it is they're doing, they can't do that anymore. The company is leaving. So I think also we have a lot of employers that are working in different states, and they worked with a Goodwill in the past. So when they have people down this way, they're like, hey, I worked with the Goodwill in Georgia or wherever, and they reach out to us because, you know, they've had good success with Goodwill. So that's the good thing about being in the Goodwill families. You know that there's other people out there across the country doing the same good work you're doing, and employers know that, and they reach out to us.
So your reputation like precedes you, basically.
Yeah.
But do you find, are different people reaching out to you now than used to, different types of jobs, or is it always the same type of, is it always maybe entry-level work, or is it always the same types of jobs, or now that everyone's looking to find talent, do you have new types of employers reaching out?
I think it's everyone. Go ahead, Kara.
We do have different types of employers that are reaching out because as Antonia had mentioned, it's a different job market out there right now. Sometimes too, what the employers are looking for is because they don't have as many people, they're expecting a wider range of job duties that a person can do. And so that has had an impact as well from an employer's perspective on the types of people that they would like to attract and where they can find them. You know, it also gives us an opportunity because some of our people may not be able to do all of those job duties, but with supports, they could do many of them. And then it's also helping an employer look at, is there another way to kind of redistribute those tasks to people that could do them so that both people are both very productive and efficient in doing their work that needs to get done.
So are you saying they're looking for someone, it might have been 2 jobs in the past, and now they're trying to find one person to do 2 jobs?
Well, because it's hard to find the people sometimes. I know the employers have been telling us, you know, we hire them, we send them for, we'll say, a drug test or pre-employment screening, and then they don't show up after that, you know. So it's disheartening for an employer because that's time and money spent, you know, on people trying to get people to work for them that they're not getting reimbursed for either. So if there's a way to make that process easier by using, for example, community partners like Goodwill, that would make sense for employers.
And did you say, Antonia, that when people are laying off, they have you come in to do job search? So then do you offer the services through, you bring them back? Were they people that you had originally placed, or sometimes they're not, but then you bring them in for services after they're laid off?
Well, the couple employers that reached out to us had been operating in this area for 20 years, and so they had us come in during the lunch hours and meet with their we did a couple of just general job search classes, and then we just started meeting with people individually to get them replaced. So
are you noticing any different besides this trying to get, I think someone, we just need to have, if you're not muted, could you mute? Okay, I'm just hearing some feedback. Are you seeing different needs from these employers than you did before? I mean, obviously you said there's people that they're trying to fill more jobs with fewer people, but is it different types of jobs? Are there jobs that need more experience, or jobs that are still more entry level? And if people can't do the job they did in the past, how is it that you get them prepped to go into something slightly different?
Here in Rhode Island, for example, and I'll speak for Rhode Island, the employers have been contacting us for a very wide range of occupations, everything from entry-level work to higher level skilled trades. For example, we have boat building and shipbuilding here that require some specific talent. So they're always looking to expand the pool of applicants from which they can choose. We do get a lot of people who are unable, for one reason or another, to return to their line of work. They may have had anything from a stroke, traumatic brain injury from an accident, something else that has impacted their ability to, sometimes it's stress or post-traumatic stress disorder that has happened and they can't return to their work. What we end up doing is using a lot of these kinds of assessments to look at transferable skills. So that has been a great boon for helping people realize that, yes, you may not be able to return to the work that you did prior, but you still have skills and abilities that can be applied to a wider range of jobs here in the community. So that makes it makes people feel a lot more optimistic about their skills and abilities. Sometimes we do find that, again, the types of things that they still may be interested in doing, because as Antonia had mentioned before, you only know what you know. So, you know, if you're not aware of some of these other opportunities, it's hard to say, you know, well, if I did this, I could do that. So it gives people that time to really learn, as she had said, more about themselves and their skills and how they can still be used in a productive way to out in the community.
Did you have anything, Antonia? I'm sorry. Did you have anything to?
No, that's exactly what we do. We also have we have a core construction class here where people are learning just general skills about construction. But all of those folks eventually, you know, would want to get into an apprenticeship program for a specific trade. So that's one of the things that all the people are going to be doing, is taking this, taking a CareerScope to see, you know, what trade would make sense to them. You know, so if their math skills aren't great, maybe not electrician. Just, you know, depending on what they score highly on, we can focus on. These are the different trades that you could go into. You know, there's so many career in a year opportunities, and there's grant money out there. So, you know, we really just focus on trying to upskill our labor market. We know that employers, they need more than people to, you know, dig ditches and do work site cleanup. You know, they're looking for people who have a little bit more skill set. So anything we can do to kind of upskill them, whether it's showing them how to use a computer to do order fulfillment, or, you know, giving them some Excel type of skills. You know, we work with them on that. We like to talk to them about, you know, career paths, right? So, you know, CNA to RN. We talk to them about, you know, maybe you start as a construction helper, but then you become an apprentice, and then maybe in a couple of years you learn how to do estimating, and then maybe project management. So we kind of show them the whole path, and I think that's important because, you know, people stay at jobs for a little while, but if they feel like it's their career and there's a path for them, I feel like they stay longer. And we're really focused on retention and making sure that the placement is the right fit. And CareerScope helps us do that, because then we can know that this, you know, this is indeed something that they're going to be successful at because they're good at it and they like it.
And if you can see that there's steps along the way, you're more likely to, you know, to follow that path, because you know you're heading in a forward direction.
Right. Like just a job does not lower recidivism, right? But a career, a good job that, you know, they can see sustaining their family for years to come, that lowers recidivism. Just like anything else, if they have If they can see the hope for a better future, then they're going to stay. And I think a lot of employers have these career paths, but they don't always advertise them. So they've got, assembly worker, and people are like, I don't want to be an assembly worker, but they don't understand that company may start you as an assembly worker, but if they talk to anyone in leadership, they can see, oh, well, this guy was only with the company a couple of years and now he's already, doing this, and they're going to put you to school for this. So, with manufacturing, those are very stackable credentials. Same with the healthcare industry. So, and construction. So if we get people to see that path, then little lights go off in their head and they start to see the things that we see in them, right? So we see their potential, but they don't always see it. But this helps because we could say, look, you're good at this. Look how high you scored on this.
And it's inspiring. And it's inspiring.
Yeah.
I have a question from an attendee. So how long do you continue to support a client given the discussion on career paths is the coaching free to your clients? So is that something you can, like, how long do you stay with them? And I guess a follow up too from what you just said, do you ever give feedback back to the employers about doing a better job on advertising those paths so that they may get, more talent, knowing that they're going to be on the entry step to a longer path?
Definitely. I've had employers, I've asked them to revise their recruiting flyer for me and just adding certain things that they'll tell me that are benefits that they're just not putting on their recruitment flyer. They'll just say, we're hiring for this job, but nothing else. So I'll say, well, let them know about all of these other things that you offer. We have an employer that has a daycare and a gym and now housing. So, those are all things that need to be on their benefits, come apply for this job flyer.
So you benefit each other then. You help, if they ask the right way, you can also then provide them with the right people. Okay, so I'm sorry. So the question about how long you support your client.
Well, so our customers don't pay any charges. All of our services are funded by the sale of donated goods. So when there's excess profits from our stores, they go into funding our mission. So we serve anyone in the community who is unemployed or underemployed. And we follow them pretty intensely for the first 90 days. And then we follow up at 6 months and 1 year because we want to track impact. So we call them 6 months and a year later to find out, are you still at the same job? Do you have the same hours? Did you get a raise? Are you going to school now? What's your title now? That kind of thing. And then sometimes we do replace people at that time. We'll call them and they'll like, yeah, I lost my job, but I didn't come back in, and we'll get them back in and get them another job.
It's a bit different in Rhode Island at our Goodwill because most of our clients come to us from a referral from our state vocational rehabilitation office or from the Office of Behavioral Health, Developmental Disabilities and Hospitals. The ones that come from the Behavioral Health, Developmental Disabilities and Hospitals end up with long-term supports. So many of our clients that get referred to us that way and that we're working with have supports that will be there for the rest of their lives, as long as they want to work. For the state vocational rehabilitation referrals, that particular agency keeps a client open for 90 days after hire, which we will follow them. Goodwill follows them for an additional at least 6 months, just to make sure that things are going well. And so that's all part of our fee. We also do get referrals from our Department of Labor and Training office for specific training, which is a lot more short-term. We also have job centers or power of work centers that are located in a lot of the Goodwill stores where people can actually come in off the street if they need some help with resumes, finding a job, writing cover letters, practicing interview skills, and things like that are very short term with not a lot of follow-up afterwards.
So one of the follow-up question from the last one was, do employers value your guidance on the career path layout? Do they come to you for advice on those career paths, or any guidance you can provide them on that?
I would say they get unsolicited advice. when I see that they have a really good career path and they're just not communicating that with their employees, I would say they get advice that they didn't ask for.
Okay, well, which only ends up helping in the long run, I'm sure. Okay, so the part I like the most is, can you each share a success story? Just because I love to hear the stories of the actual individuals. So either one, whoever wants to go first. I know Carol has a few.
Yes, I do. I do.
Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah. And I guess to show perhaps a range of different types of jobs. But yesterday, we had a young man who just started working for the state of Rhode Island in the Department of Revenue, Division of Taxation. So he's going to be working with a lot of people who are sending in their state taxes. So that's kind of an exciting time for me. But the other success story that I wanted to highlight as well was one that was a young woman who had been a part of a program called Project Search, which works with primarily with students in the past, but Rhode Island, we ended up working with the first adult Project Search population, working with Lifespan in their hospital. They're the largest employer in Rhode Island. So she was in this class and doing a lot of on-site work. It's a 9 or 10 month program that runs Monday through Friday, 8 to 2. So it's an intensive program. They learn a lot of skills in the classroom that then they can put into place in the actual hospital. She had a difficult time and really ended up with some behaviors that, long story short, she ended up getting terminated from that program. However, Goodwill still saw the promise in her and the skills and abilities that she had, and realized that that was probably not the best job person match for her. So she was able to get hired as a dietary aide in a nursing home facility here in Providence. And this young woman has just blossomed in this job. And I have to thank the employer as well, because they recognized that they were just so happy. She showed up every day, every single day. And what they have done is, you know, they had trouble getting other people showing up, primarily also during the pandemic, where people were, it was a difficult field to be in with a lot of COVID cases, but she showed up every day, and they were able to recognize that her skills and strengths, there were some parts of the job that she just really, it wasn't a good match for her to do, but they were able to give some of those job duties to someone else, take some of the job duties from that individual, give that one to our young woman. And she has been successfully employed for over a year at this job. We offered supports to the employer. You know, we had to talk the young woman out of, you know, that when you have one bad day, it's not worth saying, this is it, I'm done, I want to go home, I'm done with this. But she realized that, you know, her supervisor just, I mean, she loves her, and really is appreciative of the fact that she comes in every day, is willing to work, is ready to work, is excited about the work that she's doing, and that has brought out her talent and skill in that particular occupation. So we're really happy with that, because that was something that could have gone a lot differently had she felt that she was a failure in the program, had she felt that, you know, she was never going to get a job in the healthcare field, and that was where she wanted to work. So it was a good match all around for that.
Well, and it sounds like the relationship was important there. So it was, the employer was willing to take the chance and work with her, and you weren't giving up. So it sounds like everyone, you know, everyone believed in her and got her to the place where she, you know, where she is happy now. So that's what we love to hear.
Where she can believe in herself. So that's even better.
That goes back to the inspiration piece of the mission. That's great. Okay. And Antonia, how about you?
So The story I have is about a young man who entered the juvenile justice system pretty early. He got a different kind of education there, and he ended up being in his mid 30s and never had a job. So um, we he would have never stepped foot in here, but we actually had a career development facilitator that was out in the community and knew a lot of people in the community, and was able to reach a lot of people we never would have reached. And we had an employer who was a staffing agency, and they were willing to hire anyone. They said, send us anyone with a heartbeat, is what they said. And we were like, are you sure about that? And they said, we'll take any backgrounds. So we went out there and we talked to people who we know had backgrounds. And we talked to people who have never been able to get a job based on their background. And they hired them. And they were, they're still working.
That's great.
Yeah, so the young man that I'm thinking about, he got a job doing electronic assembly, and he's been there almost 6 months now.
Oh, wow.
And he thought that he would never find a job, and he thought he would always have to keep doing what he was doing to make money, because he never was given the opportunity to have a job. And he said, I don't want to do this forever, but no one will give me a chance because I've sort of messed my life up. So I'm stuck doing what I'm doing, which isn't legal and isn't going to give me the result I need, but I have no other choices now. So just by an employer saying, you know what, we'll give you a try, now he has choices. The same employer came out here with a 4-panel drug screen. And I said, that's interesting. I've never heard of that. What is that? He said, it's a 5-panel drug screen, and we just ignore the marijuana part of it. So because he did that, now they were able to hire 80 people out of this community.
Oh, wow.
that otherwise they probably wouldn't have been able to. So
That's great. So do you get the word out somehow that there are chances for people that normally wouldn't have these chances? And do other employers, will they take the lead then and follow that company's example? Or
I've been sharing that information with employers. I think a lot of employers are in the same boat, and I've just been, I just share with them, this is what this employer did. I don't know what you can do with, in the industry you're in, but I mean, this employer was placing people in, a manufacturing industry, a plastics manufacturer, and also an electronics manufacturer with no problems. So I think with all the other things that are out there nowadays, I think they just said, well, let's just give it a try. And that's the main thing that I see as being the change, in our post-COVID world, is that they're being a lot more flexible because they don't have the choice not to be anymore, and they're bringing people in instead of filtering them out. They're trying to see, how can we make this work? Like Carol was saying with the accommodations, maybe that employer in the past would not have taken the time to even consider the accommodations, and now they're like, hold on, let's think about how we can make this work.
Right. And as Antonia just mentioned, they don't have to be major accommodations. I think sometimes too that employers are a bit leery about, what it might mean to fall under ADA guidelines, or what kind of accommodations need to be made. And they don't have to be big structural type accommodations. It can be just the little tweaks within a policy or something that help to make it successful. The other piece to that is that I do know that many of the employers, because of the organizations that they're a part of or part of their field, that they look to see what happens at other places, and they're very interested in learning, if a company A is doing this and it's a success, then why couldn't we do it? So it helps to build on that, getting them more willing to attempt that same kind of, either expanding the people that they're looking with, or, working with, or, tweaking a job description, because it gets more people to apply. So I think it's win-win that way as well.
Yeah.
And do you work with them to do, if you know you have people in mind that may be able to do this and the accommodation is not a great stretch for the employer, do you work with them to see that and to to do those tweaks, like you said, tweak the job description or whatever it is they might need to do to let them know that it may not be such a big, such a big lift for them.
Right. I think that's part of when we talk about the supports that we offer, not just to the individual, but to the organization itself, so that you're able to get out there and work with the company, the hiring manager sometimes it's the shop manager, sometimes it's the, I'll say a direct supervisor who may not have the administrative part of it, but they're the ones that are on the front lines, we'll say, working with the people that we have helped get a job there. So
we have a couple people who asked how you prospect to find new companies to work with in your respective areas, and if there's companies that you wish knew about Goodwill that don't. Which I'm sure the answer to that is yes, but but are there specific companies you would love to target in your area, and how do you find new companies to work with?
A lot of it is going out into the community and being a part of those, the BNIs or the chambers of commerce, and just getting our story out there. I think and I'll just speak for Rhode Island, we recently opened our first Goodwill store here. So when people hear about Goodwill, what we had heard before was, oh, that's the stores, what else do you do? And people are not always aware of, businesses are not always aware of all the other services, that wraparound services that Goodwill provides, to be able to, be out in the community, making those connections, talking about success that you have in other industries, talking about what, you may have done for this employer that might be of benefit to this employer. It's also being able to understand, we'll say job analysis or task analysis, that sometimes the businesses don't understand that, but they know if you can come in and help them figure out how to make their productivity greater or make their workforce more efficient, they tend to be a little bit more open with that.
Do you ever have employers talk to other employers on your behalf?
Yes, we have. We actually, before COVID, BC, we had an employer panel, kind of an advisory committee that helped us with a lot of things. A lot of our board members as well on the board of Goodwill Industries are able to help us make some connections and talk about what employers are looking for. But we've gone out there too and asked, how can we help you? What do you need? And I think that, as Antonia had mentioned, in this particular climate, employers have a wide range of needs right now. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for continued partnerships, for additional partnerships, and for helping people to understand that there are a pool of people that they may not know about that may be really good fits for their organization. I don't know, Tony, if you want to add to that, but.
Well, when I'm talking with employers, I always talk to them about, thinking about Goodwill as their partners in workforce development. We have a ton of employees that come to us and we're sort of the get back on your feet job. Sometimes we're the only employer that will hire you, depending on your background and, your flexibility and what you can do. So everyone who works at Goodwill here goes through these power skills classes, and we have a program called the Role Model Worker Program, where we give them an assessment to see what classes they might need to take. So we have classes like adapting to change, building a strong team, soft skills classes. So they take an assessment, and then based on the answer, what they got right and what, it tells us what classes they need to take. I think there's up to 19 maybe classes now. And then they would take those classes. And then after they finish all the classes and they've been with us 6 months, they would do a demonstration assessment where they would, the manager would evaluate them to make sure that they're exemplifying all the values that a role model worker would exemplify, and that they're using all the skills that they learned in classes. And then they get a badge that says they're a role model worker. They get extra points on their performance review. But we found that that program actually increases retention, because the more we pour into our employees, the more likely they are to stick around. But a lot of our people leave for better jobs, and we encourage that. We help them find better jobs. That blew my mind when I got here, that your employer is going to help you find another employer. But we do that a lot. And I tell companies, like, look, if you meet someone, they're not ready, but you think they might have good potential, send them to us. We'll help get them ready, because, you know, just getting back to work if you haven't worked for a while is kind of rough. So there's a lot of skills that you need to develop, you know, just getting to work every day. You know, we're always talking to our managers. Maybe people are not demonstrating everything they need to be a role model worker because they're still working on just getting up and working for 8 hours. It's a big adjustment if you haven't done that for 15 years. And we have a lot of people here in Florida that are returning to work because they've been retired and now they can't afford to be retired anymore. So now they're 70, 80 years old returning to work. So, you know, we kind of help them find a place and then get them the skills they need, and then get them to other jobs where they can make great money and have good futures. But always, you know, it starts with, you got to get that first job, that, you know, get back on your feet job, so you're marketable to employers and you've got the job skills you need to move on. Because I feel like soft skills is the one thing that all employers across the board say when we ask them, what skills do you need these people to have? You know, sometimes I think it's going to be something very technical. It's never anything technical. It's always soft skills.
So your mission, you live your mission. Your mission is not just the people that you serve, it's your actual employees as well.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, our mission is changing lives through the power of work. And I think, you know, we can't just give folks jobs. We have to, like, help them succeed at the job and understand why they're doing what they're doing. And then we also have like a leadership academy. So when people, we identify people who we think have a potential to be a store manager one day. You know, we've taken people right out of rehab facilities, you know, drug rehab facilities, and I've watched them become cashiers and then lead cashiers and then assistant managers, and then, you know, here's your own store. So, you know, it's great to see that. And then I share those stories with the people that I meet now and say, hey, I saw this happen and it took her 2 years. So, you know, all you got to do is show up and care just a little bit.
So it's inspiring because they know it can be done, and you've seen it. That's great. I have a very specific question. Are either of your programs tied with Ticket to Work with SSA? And it also says something about do you run your own employment network?
In Rhode Island, we work with the Office of Rehab Services that has the Ticket to Work program. So they're the ones that are managing that piece of it. We get the referrals, but they get the Ticket to Work.
Okay.
Me too. We get those referrals. Actually, we have a really close partnership with the workforce board down here, CareerScope. They actually rent space from us, and they're in one of our job connection offices down here, and they're very close. So we have a lot of referrals back and forth. They'll refer people to us for placement, people who need a little bit of more of what they call hand holding when it comes to applying for jobs and posting resumes, and then we refer people to them when we have people who need that, like WIOA and for like different educational things that they have.
Who did you say that was, Antonia? I'm sorry.
The Workplace Innovation Opportunity Act money, the federal grants, you know, I think it's like $5,000 for things that are, you know, in growing industries that they've identified.
Okay. But did you say it was a specific organization that you refer back and forth to?
Well, down here, our workforce development is called Career
Source. Career Source. Okay. That's
Career Source. Yeah.
Right. We are familiar with them too. Okay. So Jeff, who asked the question about Ticket to Work, did you have if there was a follow-up, just post it in chat. So I want to make sure I got the question answered that you were asking. And I do have, I'm just checking the chat because there was a follow-up. Jeff says yes, so I guess we're good. We answered that question. Jeff also asks, with the difficulty hiring for many employers, have we reached the golden age for people with disabilities? And someone followed up to say that's why we, instead of saying accommodation, we now use the word tools. So I'm not sure if that's anything that you can speak to, but in terms of disabilities.
Well, I think that this current job market has opened up a lot of opportunity for employers to think about people that they may not have thought about before. There's still, I will say, there is still a need for continuous education in terms of the ability within disabilities and seeing people as capable rather than, what they're not capable of doing. And I laugh because with the word tools as opposed to accommodations, one of the things that has always gotten social service agencies kind of in trouble with business are a lot of our terms that businesses don't understand. So now, yes, we are learning how to speak the business language, I think, a lot better, and it's really had an impact on the openness of business and employers to consider working with social service agencies. We're not just the warm, fuzzy, feel-good people. We're the people that understand bottom line. We understand an employer's need, and we're here to build that partnership to work together to have a win-win situation for everyone.
Well, and it sounds like if you use tools, for instance, instead of accommodations, they may feel that it's not as big a deal for them to help meet that requirement. Because tools has maybe a different connotation to them than an accommodation would. Mm-hmm. So here, let's see, a couple more. They're kind of related. If a person wanted to develop a partnership with the Goodwill in their area, who should they try to initiate the contact with at that Goodwill? And I'm not sure who asked that question, but is it Judith? Did you mean an employer or an actual job seeker trying to develop that partnership? And while we're waiting for
as
that,
an agency, if I work for regional adult education in Southwest Virginia, and a lot of the things you are talking about are things that we try to do. And it seems like if we work together, we might make more headway. And I know that I think it's Teneba is the closest home base for Goodwill in our area. That's Goodwill of Tennessee and Virginia. I think it's located in Bristol, Tennessee, or Johnson City, Tennessee. So are there titles that if we wanted to develop a partnership, whom should we contact? What would be their title or their job?
I would say someone in mission services.
Okay.
And if you were, yeah. And so if you look I'm on their website, I would look at I would go to mission and then employment and find someone in the community employment services.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
thank you, Judith. Okay, so here's your chance to tell us why Goodwill is such a great organization to partner with. I know you've given us examples, but what would be a top benefit for businesses to partner with you, or what's a way that people could collaborate with you? Yes, Tony.
So I would just say it's because we're very familiar with the community, and we're very familiar with the people in the community and what they need and what are their barriers. So I think if you are looking for someone to partner with, we're good because we know what the needs are, and we know who's not being served, who's underserved, who's struggling to find employment, and then right now the people struggling to find employment are people with multiple barriers. So it's technology, number one. They don't know how to find a job online or post a resume. And then, there's other barriers like transportation, or, they don't know what to do. They don't know what jobs are out there. So, you know, our offices are called job connections because we just try to connect them with employers. So I would say, because one, we know the community, and two, we're really interested in just making sure we have a good fit, because our focus, unlike Career Source that's more focused on employers, we're really focused on our job seekers. And we know that a good placement is going to happen if we find the best job for the job seeker. So even though we help employers, we're not going to send you anyone that's not the best fit for this person.
Right. And to add to that, to put the other plug in, is that we're willing to stick it out. We're going to be willing to do the hard work, put the time and effort in, and we're not going to just leave an employer or a person high and dry. We're there for the long haul sometimes. And, you know, I think that, again, building that relationship that's based on trust is something that, you know, works well for both sides. You know, we're here to help people be successful, whether that's the individual job seeker or whether that's even that job person match within an industry. You know, it's exciting because we're willing to learn a lot about a lot of different industries. You know, we do work very closely with other community organizations. So in terms of partnerships, Goodwill, I think, really does understand that. It's sort of like, you know, we'll say we walk the walk. We just don't talk about it. We're there on the, you know, right there out in the community, working side by side, you know, hand in hand with people. And again, it's a long-term relationship that we're looking for from Goodwill, you know.
On that note, I think that's just a great place to end. We're short on time now, but again, thank you to Antonia and Carol. I love talking to you every time we talk. I feel like I learned something new. I'm hoping that you know, we got the word out for Goodwill today as well. If anyone on this call has any ideas for future topics or want to be a panelist on a future webinar, please reach out. We'll have our contact information on the screen, and it will be in the recording as well. But at any time, you know, reach out with any questions. If there's follow-ups from today's questions, I think we hit most of them in the chat. If there was anything we didn't hit, just feel free to reach out to any of us and we will do our best to get an answer back to you. But again, thank you to our panelists and also to everyone who joined. We will be in touch about webinar number 2.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you.